Good morning, everyone. I think we can go ahead and get started. So we want to provide a training on the virtual job fair tool that we have on Illinois WorkNet. And so I think the easiest way to go about this is just covering, I guess, everything. So we'll get started with where this actually is located on Illinois WorkNet. So on the home page here, we have illinoisworknet.com. And below this, we have links to resources for different categories. We have employer, job seeker, virtual job fair, and training and services. And we're going to focus on virtual job fair. So we have the set up virtual job fair button that will direct the employers to a page where they can get started. But we're going to select the search virtual job fairs button here. And this is the landing page of the virtual job fair tool. And again, we have set up virtual job fairs and search virtual job fairs. So we'll start with what the job seeker sees and then get into the employers and partners. So job seekers would be directed here to this landing page, and they can either scroll down or select this image here, and it'll jump them down the page right to the employer booth listing. But first, I do want to cover a few resources that we have up here just past this setup and search area. So we have several different resources for job seekers and employers. We have articles that we can just open up one of these to see what they'll look like. For job seekers and employers on preparing for a virtual job fair event and what to do while attending. And they're pretty much just best practices, do's and don'ts, what to expect, just kind of giving some awareness about a virtual event if they're, unfamiliar with one. And some other items here and resources, including mentioning of the Illinois WorkNet Service Finder, where customers and employers can look to see what local organizations are near them that can help with their career, finding jobs, and work support, financial aid, childcare, and more. So we have those links to articles there. We do mention the American Job Centers and the Service Finder. We also mentioned for the job seekers, the resume writing guide and resume builder tool that's free with an account to use with Illinois WorkNet, and a quick start guide for job seekers and a FAQ page. And then employers, we do have prepare for event and attending an event. And just to quickly answer that question in the chat, do job seekers see the setup of virtual job fair option? So yeah, what we're seeing right now is everything that job seekers will see, and employers as well. Everybody can see this, what's currently on the page. And we do have a few tabs here. We have the search by keyword that job seekers can use to filter through the employer booth listing. There's also a industries tab that they can select from. And they can also search by address or location. And in some of the searches, and we have a note up here about it, it may seem that an employer may not really belong in an area. If you're in Southern Illinois and you search for, a company, or you use some of your, filters up here, and it seemed like there was a organization in Chicago that came up in the search, that just means that that employer has, that they offer remote options as well. So that's just a note about the search here. And then, so from here, we can see the logo of the organization and the number of positions. So when you click on this will open up the employer booth page. And this is the information that the employer will submit, which we'll get to in a second what that form looks like. But the employer booth page has social media links, the name of the organization. We have the website and physical address of the employer, job information, the number of openings, and the industries that they're hiring in. And the link here will direct to the careers page or that list of jobs on that employer's website. Below here, we have the employer description, the point of contact that if anyone has any questions about the booth or the employer, that the job seekers can reach out to. If there are upcoming virtual job fair events, they'll be added to this upcoming VGF section. And then down here, we have recordings of previous virtual job fair events, and then supplemental documents and links that the employer has provided. And so we'll go back to this list here. And no one's going to see, this is something I'm currently working on. I guess we can just get rid of this. But yeah, nobody's going to see that, yellow ribbon up there that we just had. And so that's the, kind of the public view of what the job seeker will see. And actually, I'm going to go to this calendar here. And so this calendar tab, they're also not going to see that, has some of the same information about, what the articles on how to prepare for an event, the FAQ page, and a note, to make sure that you have the latest Zoom version downloaded so that you have full functionality in the webinars. And if SIU, Daniel or myself, if we are hosting an event, we will be doing it through Zoom and not any other platform. But here's the calendar of events. So we have the workNet calendar that has all of our events, but the calendar on this page is filtered specifically to virtual job fairs. And so, for example, you can select here and get some information about the event, including a link to register on Eventbrite. And when you do register on Eventbrite, you will then receive the confirmation email with the webinar information. But if you're, the participating employer, or, if you've partnered with us, you'll have a calendar invite, you'll already have that information. But that's how the job seekers would acquire the webinar information, by registering. And this is something that we've just added. I still need to make some updates of it, but we have a calendar view, and we also have, we're going to have a table view of upcoming events that'll just list out, the ones that we're, sponsoring and hosting. We'll just have, the name of the event or the employer, the industry that is hiring, the city that they're located, in the date, time, and then links to registration and the webinar itself. Okay, and so then I'm going to go back to this page here. Once it loads, and then we can see what the employer view will look like. So I see that it logged me out, but that's actually something good that I can show you. So that's the job seeker view, and you've kind of seen throughout on some pages, add your employer booth. We do have a page, so if the employer either clicks that button or set up virtual job fairs, it'll take them to a quick start guide for employers on setting up their booth. This includes instructions, little brief steps here listed out, and accompanying videos, just walking through for the employer how to get started. We have an overview of the virtual job fair tool, how to get started. The employers will need to create an Illinois workNet account in order to submit an employer booth. Then we have a video on how to create an account, how to submit an employer booth, how to manage and edit that booth listing. And then if they choose to have an event, we have information on preparing and attending, and then kind of what we do afterwards, the post-event follow-up. We have buttons down here, add booth and PDF instructions. We're going to click add booth, and this will take us to here. Okay, so I'm logged back in. So once the account's created and they're signed in and logged into workNet, they're able to fill out this form, and this just has the information that we saw on the employer booth, the name, the website, the number of positions, checkbox for remote working opportunities available, the website. They can also list out, this is a new feature, that they can list out the position titles for, that they're hiring in, and this will show up on their booth page as well. We have a job booth start and end date. This just shows when that employer wants their booth to publicly show. in that search that we were looking at. And then logo, description, the FEIN, that is an optional field. Then they have the address, the industries that they're hiring in. They can select more than one. Then we have a checkbox here if that employer would be interested in learning about work-based learning and apprenticeships. We have a note here that they can check, and we can forward this information to the appropriate contacts. We have the employer contact information listing, name, email, phone number, and then social media links, and then they'll click save and submit when they're done. And so that's how they'll submit the employer booth. They'll get an email, letting them know the booth's been submitted. Every week we have a member of our staff review the employer booth submissions. And so once that booth is approved, the employer will receive an email. Then they'll be able to, that includes instructions on how to access the dashboard where they can manage their booth page. So they'll be instructed to log into Illinois workNet. And then under my dashboard, they will see this VGF virtual job fair icon under personal tools. And since Daniel and I have access to everything, we're going to see every employer booth. But for instance, if we just pick Memorial, let's say Memorial Health System submitted their booth, when they log in, they're only going to see their booth. And so they'll see the name, booth ID, the status, submission start date and end date. And we have an actions column here where they'll see, we'll just go through each of these. So this first one is booth details, this gray icon. If you click that, that just provides an overview of the high level information that's submitted. We can see over to the left here, the website, position, number of open positions, titles, industries, contact, social media. They can also add, if there's another member of their organization who they want to have access to be able to manage this, they can add a contact by selecting edit, and then they can search existing Illinois workNet accounts and add a contact that way. And then the audit record, this just shows what changes were made to the employer booth page. If we need to go back and check anything. Then we have preview page, edit details. This will take them to that entry form where they can edit and manage job fairs, but we can also access these two buttons on the previous page. And so this blue button, this edit booth employer information, this will look familiar. This is the entry form that they filled out, and they can come back in here and edit anything they need to. And then once their booth has been approved, there are a couple fields where they can add documents or links. For a document, they'll just add a title and then upload the file. There's limitations in that the file size has to be no larger than 50 megabytes. And the files that can be uploaded are Word documents, Excel sheets, and PDFs. And then once they upload the file and give the file a name, they'll just click upload file, and then it'll appear here. And then for links, similarly, they'll just give the link a title and then add the link and click add. And then that'll show up on their employer booth page. And then, any changes they need to make, then they just have to click save and submit. And once the booths have been approved and the changes are made, those changes are reflected live. It doesn't have to, the changes don't have to be reapproved. So the changes are instantaneous so long as the booth is checked as approved. And we have archived here if, I was Memorial and came in here and just said, well, we're not hiring anymore. We filled all our positions. We don't really need to show this anymore. Then you just click this checkbox for archive and click save and submit employer booth. And then this final button here, this is the manage job fairs button. This just has where we add the upcoming virtual job fair events for an employer. they can select this button here and request assistance hosting a job fair event or add their own. If they add their own, they'll just add the dates and the URL. They can also include a recording of it. And then if they request assistance, they'll fill out this entry form here. It just has basic information. It'll auto-populate since they're logged into their workNet account. It'll auto-populate some of this information for them. So then they can just enter a name, date range, time slots that they're available. If they're open to participating in an event with more, with other employers. Target population, and then a couple questions. Do they accept non-English speaking employees? And if so, will they provide their own translator? Then they'll click submit. And then we'll have, we will follow up with them, or the partner staff will follow up with them as well. So that's the employer side of things. So now we'll get into the partners. So, if you're in Illinois WorkNet and you see my dashboard, and under personal tools, you see VGF Virtual Job Fair. That means you probably have access to the Virtual Job Fair. If not, Daniel or myself are more than happy to add you in the customer support center to make sure that you do have access to this system. And so what you would see when you click Virtual Job Fair is you would come to this dashboard here, and you would see the employer booths that are located in your LWIA. So Daniel and I can see all 608. And if we wanted to, so then you would see all the ones that are, that have a physical address in LWIA 7. So, the Chicago area, you would see all of these booths here. And you can filter them through all active, archived. Upcoming means these booths have been approved, but their start date for when they're live is in the future. So we can see that there's a handful of these that are a few days ahead. But then once we reach the 23rd and the 25th, then these will be active, and the job seekers can find them in the search. Expired, these would be employer booths that looks like we don't have any at the moment. That whose end date has passed, and then we'll have another member of our staff just review to see if that employer is still hiring, and then if so, we'll make them active, and we'll extend the public listing so that job seekers still have the ability to find those positions. We also have a couple exports here. So, if you needed to add an employer booth on behalf of an employer, you could select that, and we've seen what that entry form looks like. Export booths, I'll do this since the report shouldn't be too large. So when you're in here, depending on what status you have selected, you can run an export, on information for these employer booths that are showing. And once this opens up, I'll give you let's see. Look and see how this appears. And so this export just has, information. Let me make this larger here, where it'll, provide a table view of all this information here. That's essentially the information that's provided in the employer booth page. So if you needed to report out on anything, you could, select this this view as well. And export job fairs, this is a, Daniel and I will add, upcoming events, for employers. Sometimes they'll add them on their own, and we just want to be sure that we can still, add those to our calendar. And this just picks up, recently added events so that, we can promote them to that the employer adds themselves. Okay, and then, yep, you have a search here that you can search through. We saw how that looked when I was narrowing it down to Memorial. And then there's also this VGF Event Administration. Employers won't see this button, by the way, but we have this button here where when the employer requests assistance with an event, it creates a record in the dashboard. So we'll select single employer VGFs. And similar to the previous page, you're only going to see the event requests from employers that are in your LWIA. And so at the moment, we're seeing everything, but you would only see LWIA 7's events. And so we have a table view here of the employer, request status, the submission and start date when they want to hold their event, the post-event follow-up status, and the user who last updated the record. We have a few filters at the top two. If the event's been canceled, if it's completed, if it's in progress, if it's open, and all. And then we have start and end date search for when, if you need to filter, through events for a specific time. And then event follow-up. The event's been held, and then you want to determine the outcomes of the event. You're able to reach out to the employer and capture that information, which we can get to in a second here. You can also run an export of the information in this table as well. And so let's take a look at what one of these records will look like. So I want to see if we have one that's pretty filled out here. So let's just go to this Nursing Academy one. So when you click on this, it will open up a page that shows the event record request. And so we'll see under event info, the name, the time of the date and time of the event. And then below this is just the information that employer filled out when they submitted the record request. So we can see the date, the times, Zoom, what they're open to as far as just having their company participate in a VGF, or if they're open to having more than one more than one employer in their event, target population, and then those two questions here. And then to the right, we have the event status. So, at first it was open, and then, as we were working with the employer and updating the information and leading up to the event, we had marked this as in progress. And then, of course, once the event was done, marked as completed. The contact information has the name, email, and phone number of the employer, the LWIA. And for the industries, this is tied to that employer's booth page, the industries that they selected there. And below this, we have webinar information. This is actually something I'm considering updating, but we have, you can save the webinar information here as a reference, and registration link. I think this is something that we're more than likely going to remove, so you can ignore this registration link here. And then we just have a note here, if it's not already in the Illinois WorkNet calendar, that when you add the event, if you click this here, it'll take you to that calendar entry form. But then for it to show up on the virtual job fair calendar, that one page, if you click under series and you select, you can type it too, virtual job fair, and that's that tag that'll get picked up and show specifically on that one page. And we also have a project assistant on staff who on a weekly basis reviews the events that have been submitted. And then below here, we have the post-event follow-up status. This is what I was alluding to a few moments ago. So, after the event, you can enter, how many attended the event. And then for, several weeks later, you can, reach out to the employer to, see if any were hired. If so, how many, and then what industries did they hire in. And so when we have this defaulted to needs follow-up, but when, you do reach out to the employer, we'll mark, you can mark followed up. And then if you do hear back from them, you can mark completed as well. And you can ignore this export registrants button. That's going to go away as well. But we also have add notes feature. So this is something that that you can come in here and add a note, followed up with the employer. We have social media scheduled, just each step in the virtual job fair process, coordinating all those details and everything. You can track that in here. That way, if, all of a sudden, if I was working with this employer and coordinating it, I would, just leave a record in here. And then if I, suddenly had to be out of the office, Daniel or, someone on your staff could come in here and just see, where you are with that, scheduling that event there. And then you'll just click save, and then it'll automatically add a note here. And you can see the notes, which user added it, and then the date and time the note was added. And any changes to here, any changes you make, you have to click save. You have to click save. We have that at the top and bottom. Otherwise, those changes will not be recorded. Okay, and so we have a couple other buttons here. We have Plan Your Single Employer VGF. This will take you to a page that we have in the partner guide. We'll get into this in a little bit, but that just kind of has all of the information about what to do as far as coordinating the event. And then we have a under this VGF Event Administration button, we have booth management. That takes us back to the page that we were at earlier. Then we also have multi-employer VJFs, and pretty much the same setup as the single employer dashboard. We have the event name, if they've requested assistance, the event status, the date, post-event follow-up status, and who it was last updated by. And so, again, same filters up here, start end date, filter clear, export results. So if you click this will take you to that record for the event, and it just has that same information that is included in the previous, the same information that was in the single employer dashboard as well. And then we also have add my, so all partners should have access to this once they're granted assistance. And what you can do, you can either send an email to Daniel or myself, or if you want to add your own event, hold your own event, you can do so. You would click add my own event, and we just have some notes here that, in doing this, you're going to be responsible for planning and coordinating the event. We've linked to a page that we'll talk about that just shows, that lists everything you'd have to do. And then, that in doing this option, that you'd be responsible for marketing, hosting, recording, technical assistance, and everything. And then you can just click create event, and then just add in the information here. Just the basic information here: name of the event, the point of contact, the LWIA it's located in, industries, date, target population, and additional notes. So you can add that, or you can request assistance. Again, you can either reach out to Dan or myself, or complete this form and submit it, because we do check these dashboards. And so if we see a new request, we'll be sure to follow up. We'll have that point of contact listed there. And let's see. I do want to note too that when you do have access to the virtual job fair system as a partner, and you see this icon here, you'll also get a during the week, on the weekdays, you'll receive a daily email if there's any updates or changes. Now, given that it's LWIA 7 Chicago, you're probably going to get one every day. And it'll look like this. And it sends out, around 9 a.m., a few minutes after 9 a.m., and it will show, we have it divided up into a few different sections. So we have employer requesting assistance with the VGF in your LWIA. And so these would be in the, let me go back to the single employer dashboard here. So any event that has a status marked as open or in progress they will show up here. As a bullet item, so you'll see, oh, okay, Spanish Coalition for Housing, the events in progress, or they've requested assistance, and then you can reach out to that employer. And I think this event is coming up within the next few days, but and then we have instruction here to access this dashboard that we're on here. So you'd log into workNet, select that My Dashboard dropdown, virtual job fair, and then you'd click this VGF Event Administration button and select single employer events. And then you can click on this page to see the record and point of contact. And we also have instructions that we link to that just provides information on how to navigate the system here. And then if you do have any questions, you can email info@illinoisworknet.com, or again, Daniel or myself. So that's the first part of the daily email. The second part we have here is upcoming events in your LWIA. So virtual job fairs, the ones that are listed as upcoming, when they're added to the employer booth page, they'll just be listed out here. And there's a link to that event with more information. And then employer booths pending approval. So we can see that there was one that was submitted. I guess this was yesterday. And then a link to review and approve these entries. Now, you're absolutely free to review and approve those. We do have, and I think this was a question earlier in the chat, we do have a project assistant who's familiar with this system, who will come into the virtual job fair, and she will see the entry here, click this, and just verify that this information is correct, that the website's working, it is in fact a real authentic booth, and not that it makes sense for this to actually be here and publicly show in the search. And so she'll just review, make sure that information is correct, and then select approve, and then clicking this button will approve that and make it public. So again, you're free to review and approve yourself, but we do have someone on a weekly basis who will come into the system and approve those booths. And then we have employer booth updates. This is just FYI, any changes to employer booths in your area. It'll just mention, this is the employer booth, and this is what they updated. And that's the daily email. And so next we will, let's see. Oh, I see a question in the chat here before I move on. Can the employer add the post-event follow-up, or does that have to be entered by staff? So that would have to be entered by staff. The employers do not have access to the single employer VGF or multi-employer VGF. That's just something that Daniel and myself and partners who have access to VGF, that's what they can, those are, the partners would have to come in here and update that post-event information. And I'm just seeing if there's any other questions that I haven't answered. No. Okay. So now we will shift gears over to the partner site. So actually, let me just go back to the homepage for a second. So we have a partner guide for virtual job fairs. And so you can reach the partner site by either clicking that partners icon or entering illinoisworknet.com/partners. That short URL will take you here. And then under global partner tools, you'll see the VGF icon. And if you select that, that'll take you to the landing page of the partner guide. So we have some information here on about the event. Again, if you need access to assist with VJFs, or you just have a question, you can send an email to info@. And then we have pages on planning your virtual job fair event. And so I just want to make sure. Okay, so yes, so we'll click, you can either click this link here, or this image, and this will take you to virtual job fair planning. So we have a few buttons here. The VGF planning quick start guide. Similar to the employer quick start guide, we have text, links, and short videos for each step. So we have an overview of the system, inviting employers to participate, coordinating event details, and then final preparations. And so that's pretty standard for all the events. And then below here we have, and on the previous page, the single, multi, and legislative events. We have a page for each of these types of events. And they're all set up, like this. The single employer event, we ask for 2 weeks notice. That way we can get all the details ironed out, create registration, promote on social media, add it to the calendar, answer any questions, make sure we're all squared away. And then down here we have, if a partner is working with us, with Illinois WorkNet assistance, the event will look like this. This is what Illinois WorkNet will do. So we'll create registration, we'll create the calendar entry, we'll create social media posts. If the employer needs Zoom training, we can provide that. We can troubleshoot and provide technical assistance during the event. And then, that includes, opening remarks on Zoom features, recording, managing participants if they are disruptive. In the nearly 2 years we've done this, I can't think of anyone that has, but if need be, we can do so. And then adding the recording to YouTube. We'll also do the post-event follow-up that includes sending a feedback survey to registrants and employers. We'll provide registration information to the employer that would include just the name and contact information that they can then follow up with anybody who registered for the event. And we can also provide the registration information to you. We have started to capture some demographic information on registration. That information, of course, is not sent to the employer, but for reporting purposes, we can provide that information. And then we will also send the recording, link, we'll add that recording to that employer's booth page. And then, with assistance, that's what we would do with assistance. And then, here's the expectations, that we would have is that, you would communicate with the employer or employers if it was a larger event, to ensure that a Illinois WorkNet account and employer booth page are created and set up. We have review and approve the booth if need be, but again, we have someone on our staff doing that. And ensuring the employer has PowerPoint slides for the event and that they would be provided to us, and we would screen share. If we're providing technical assistance and hosting it on Zoom, Daniel or myself will be the ones to have that PowerPoint and screen share. And we'll also do that for larger events. If there's more than one employer, we'll just compile them and put them into one presentation. It's just easier that way, so people aren't, stopping and restarting, and it's just, kind of for continuity's sake that we'll run the slideshow there. And then we just have, I mentioned here that the partner staff would provide opening and closing remarks on the event. If there's any questions that are asked through the chat, to facilitate those, and then at some point during the webinar also mentioned the local resources and services that are available to attendees, the work support, American Job Centers, and so forth. And so that's what that kind of partnership with Illinois WorkNet looks like, the expected work and duties. And then without assistance, this is just kind of a combination of this column. If you put an event on your own, you don't, you opt to not have our assistance, this is just what we expect as far as coordinating the event details. And so we have a page for, this for the single employer events. We have one for multi-employer events. It's essentially the same information, but, more than one employer. For the multi-employer events, we ask for 5 weeks notice to facilitate and successfully coordinate and promote the event. We do, want to market it, the event, and drive it up, but it's also very crucial that, through, the means at your disposal, that you promote the event as well in your area, because, you may have, access to more, lists and, other information and ways to get the word out than what we can do. And there's a question here. Couple questions. Is the registration through Zoom or is it through the virtual job fair tool? So it is. So the registration is through. So on Illinois WorkNet, that's where they'll find the event. And if I just do select this, so whether it's in the calendar or here, let's see, today's the 18th. So they'll find the registration page, and that's in Eventbrite. And once they register here, they'll receive the Zoom information. And great question, Victor. What is the duration of time for single VGF versus multi-employer VGF? So for single employer VJFs, if Daniel and I are facilitating those will be 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes. And for multi-employer events, we have up to 2 hours for multi-employer events. And then it's been a while since I think we've had one, a couple months at least. But if you are working with a state senator or representative, we're going to be a little bit more involved with those, but we do ask, for 6 weeks notice there. And then we just have, the responsibilities. They're a little bit different, but because of the visibility that event could bring, we'll be a little bit more involved in, the planning and, execution of details. But we have a page for that as well. Close out some of these tabs here. Okay, so back to the partner guide homepage. Below this, we have all resources. We have partner guidance. This will open up the articles that we have on Virtual Job Fair. We'd like to get more added in here, but we have the ones that we referenced earlier for preparing and attending a virtual job fair event for job seekers and employers. Partner training materials and videos. We have, so the first Friday of every month, we have I think it's at 10 a.m. We have a 1 hour training session for all of our partners to join. And, during this session, we will provide updates to the system, just kind of go over, some of the information that we have gone over so far, just use it, how to use the system, how to navigate it, and so forth. And we'll open up to Q&A if there is any questions, whether it's about the system or planning an event, what have you. We do have that. We do record them, and we'll add them to this playlist here. And in this column, we just show the name, date, and if there are any materials, including the recording. We'll add links to it there, and just add what we covered in the training session. And we also have, just below these icons real quick, we do have the upcoming VGF monthly training session here, the dates, times as well, and then the past events. We have the full list of resources page, which I'll get to in a second because there's a lot on there, but partner tool updates, this just lists the updates that have been made to the system, the date, and a bulleted list of what was made. And then full list of resources. So we have a lot on this page. Guidance, in this column, we have links to FAQs, and then for job seekers, employers, and workforce partners, we have introductory videos. We have those articles we mentioned, overview of the VGF system. For each of these audiences, we'll have a recorded presentation and a PowerPoint. Under instructions, we have a instruction guide for partners, employers, that, again, just provides information and helpful links for all things VGF. We also have a video of how to submit an employer booth page. And if we, that's got an ad there. So we'll give that a second. But we also have, instructions for the employers, quick start guides for job seekers and employers. This, they'll provide information of what's available on Illinois WorkNet. Outside of virtual job fair, a lot of different resources, guides, and information, as you know. And then the Business Hub is kind of the employer website within Illinois WorkNet, but there's a lot of information available to employers as well. And then, we just have this short video. It's only a little more than 3 minutes of how to create an employer booth. It just walks the employer through how to set up a booth. And then we have a handout for how to add a booth, and then the resume writing guide. Legislative VGFs, we put together a couple flyers here for what the event looked like, kind of a summary of the event that we can do after a larger event. But we have about testimonials from in this case Senator Melinda Bush and Congressman Brad Schneider. And this was one of the first VGFs we held, actually, and first larger event. But it just shows, number of businesses, attendees, jobs represented, and how many attended the training webinars that we also did with that event. Then we just have a schedule of what those days looked like and the training sessions, and then some data here. And then an employer testimonial and some screenshots of the VGF about that information. Okay, then VGF planning. We have some checklists here and templates that, for the sake of time, I don't know if we'll get into all of these, that just kind of help you, that can help you keep track of everything, an inventory of the multi-employer, the different employers who are participating, a checklist timeline that we kind of plan out. This week we'll do A, B, and C. Next week we'll do, and so forth. We have a PowerPoint template for employers, and we also have a list of questions for Q&A. In the event that there's not very many questions in the chat, or if there just aren't any questions at all, rather than just kind of ending it there, we do have a list that we'll draw from, and these are the questions that we'll ask, so that that information is at least being relayed. And then down here we have a few different flyers, one for job seekers and employers, and these are just about virtual job fair, and directing them there of the URL. They're just informational, but we also have a custom flyer that if you wanted to utilize for your event, we do have this option here. Let me just open this up real quick. That you can come in here and edit some of this information here. Let's see, month, day, time, contact registration, logo. It's just placeholder text as well. And then we also have social media samples and templates that you can use. We have that language kind of highlighted that you can then update to share through your platform, through your social media platforms. And then down here we have weekly reports going back as far as June 2020. And this is a report that we provide to the Department of Commerce that has, that captures information that just, shows the growth of the virtual job fair tool. Let's see, this was the report from yesterday. And so this just shows, the employer booths, number of jobs, demographic information, and so forth. Kind of the running total of events, scheduling, how many have participated in the events, and then a few other items here for rapid response and Illinois WorkNet accounts and feedback down here. Okay, and I think that concludes that part of the presentation. I think that's everything about the virtual job fair. I do see one question in the chat. Can job seekers that register for job fairs upload their resume and attach it to the event for employer staff to review? They cannot, which one thing we do is, in that post-event follow-up, when we provide that contact information, the employers can reach out to, those who have registered, or, during the event itself, kind of the main things that we ask the employer to cover are, who are you? What does your organization do as far as, what kind of product or services do you provide? What job openings do you have available, perks and benefits, how to apply and who to contact, the point of contact. And so, we would stress that interested job seekers would, reach out to that point of contact for that employer. Who should we reach out to if we do not have access to VGF under personal tools section? So you can reach out to, and I'm going to provide our emails in the chat here. You can reach out to Daniel or myself, and we will be sure to have you make sure that you have access to the VGF system. You do need an Illinois WorkNet account if you don't already have one. Very comprehensive presentation. Thank you, Victor. Can we get access to this recording? Yes, so this has been recorded, and I will upload this to our YouTube channel before the end of the day, but I will also provide the link to the recording. And I'm going to catch my breath for a moment. Daniel, is there anything that you would add or anything you'd like to mention?
I don't have anything additional that I would add. Of course, great job on that presentation, David. I did go ahead and I went ahead, and threw a link into the chat for the creation of a WorkNet user account. So feel free, if you do not yet have a individual user account for WorkNet created, go ahead and do so. Again, you can just follow that link and that'll take you there. Again, just basic information that we're capturing there. Once you go ahead and you get that process completed, you should receive an automated email pretty quickly after you submit that information. At that point, as David already stated, you will be eligible at that time to have VGF access given to your personal account. So at that time, you'll be able to access all the information that David covered here today. Other than that, as David stated, if you guys have any questions, while you're beginning to navigate this process, getting used to the platform or the tool, feel free to reach out to myself or David. We always kind of pride ourselves in being quick to answer and respond. So don't hesitate to reach out. We're more than happy to help you guys get up and running with the tool. So thank you all.
Thank you, Daniel. And with that, I'll got a few minutes left. I'll open up to see if there's any questions. I don't see any more in the chat. All right, in that case, we will conclude here. So again, I will get this added to YouTube and the link sent out to everybody. So with that, I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good weekend. Thanks, everybody.